All right, so we have a study of 30 years of weather pattern records of several industrialized urban areas found that weekend days tend to be cloudier than weekdays. So we're cloudier on the weekends than the weekday. Thus, it can no longer be denied that human activity has appreciable large-scale effects on weather because the few 7-day cycles that occur naturally are of too little significance to cause measurable weather patterns. So, what is our conclusion here?
It can no longer be denied that human activity has appreciable large-scale effects on weather.
Yeah, and I had to when I first did this question, I had to sit on this premise for for a second because I didn't grasp what it meant right away. Maybe I'm just like narrow, but it's like because the few 7-day cycles that occur naturally are of too little significance to cause measurable weather patterns. And I was thinking like the few things are actually 7-day cycles, like can't just make something be permanent. And so it's almost like maybe I'm crazy, but I was thinking like, so clearly like somehow these industries have actually caused like 7-day patterns to become the norm. Is that what you all got from this? Maybe I'm like way out thinking outside the box, but did you have any other thoughts?
I literally didn't get what they were referring to at all. So
Okay, I
No
didn't.
thoughts.
yeah, like
No
this
thoughts.
one made no sense to me.
I was trying to think of like because the few 7-day cycles that occur naturally. So like I don't know, like what is a 7-day cycle? And I think my issue was I went straight to 7-day cycle to like, oh, that's a week. And I was like, and I was thinking like, okay, oh, maybe I'm way overthinking this, but I was like, a week is human made, right? Like we determined a week, didn't we? I hope so. Maybe I'm crazy. Like the weather patterns or life doesn't determine what a week is. And I was like, well, somehow a week is related to a weather pattern. And I was like, I don't know. Cool. So this is a necessary assumption question. And even if we don't completely know what's going on, we're like, it can no longer be denied that human activity has large scale effects on the weather. So that is what's needed to be true in order for that. So let's go in with that in mind and go ahead and put your answer in the chat and in parentheses what you are debating. All right, this one's tricky. I think this is the trickiest question on this section. All right, so there is, I think, an easy one to cross off though, and that is B. There are no naturally occurring seven. There can be at least one, right? So we can cross B off. And then I actually didn't cross. I wasn't critical enough on A the first time I read this through, and I'm disappointed in myself for that. Why should I have crossed A off right away?
Isn't it cloudier on weekends than weekdays? So it can't decrease significantly on weekend days?
Well, you're assuming that industrial
That's
activity equates to cloudiness.
I have no clue.
We're not talking about industrial activity though, at all. Like, it's an industrialized urban area, but we're not talking about industrial activity.
Okay,
Right?
I can see that. I did it. Mine was decreased significantly. I was more so on the mindset that, oh, they're saying that the industrial activity goes down significantly, so it's more cloudy or something like that. Maybe it doesn't have to decrease significantly in order for this change to be. Like we don't like there like, we don't do we know what level of change has to happen between weekend and weekday? I don't know enough about this topic to have like it's hard. Sometimes I sometimes feel silly talking about topics where I'm like industrial activity because this is what it does. I don't even know if we're talking about like is industrial like the clouds and not clouds. I'm like I don't know. C says if living organisms have an appreciable large scale effects on the weather, this is due at least partly to the effects of human activity. Why did we cross this one off? Sabrina's like I didn't. I like it. Malika, why did you cross this one off?
I didn't like that it was talking about living organisms other
Yeah.
than like human activity.
If living or okay, so where do we have our living organisms in our stimulus?
Well, I guess it's like human activity, but that like living organisms could be like a cat or a dog or
Yeah, I was thinking that too. Like it's due at least partly to the like if living of organisms, if anything affects the weather pattern, it's due at least partly to human activity. I don't think that's necessary, right? Do you see that, Sabrina?
Yeah, I just didn't like any of the answer choices.
That's
So,
fair.
but yeah.
Okay, so D says, if something appreciably affects large-scale weather patterns, it is probably cyclical in nature. So if something affects large-scale weathering patterns, it's probably a cycle in nature. Are we trying to say that it is probably a cycle in nature that is affecting the large-scale weather patterns here, Malika? Nope, which I know you didn't go with this one, but do you see how bad of an answer D is? All right, and then why does E work, Malika?
because it's saying it's talking about how the 7-day cycle like happens naturally, which if we I want to say negate.
So what E is saying is if a weather pattern with a natural cause has a 7-day cycle, so if a weather pattern with a natural cause has a 7-day cycle, then that cause has a 7-day cycle. And does what we're saying is the cause here have a 7-day cycle? No, like ours is that, so if a weather pattern with a natural cause has a 7-day cycle, then that cause has a 7-day cycle. And so I'm gonna try to explain this well. So if a weather pattern with a natural, so essentially if a weather pattern's cause were natural, it would be a 7-day cycle. Since this, and so we're trying to say that it is not, we can't say that it's not human activity because this cycle isn't 7 days. And so E has to be true, because if it weren't true, then how can we say that it's not just some how can we say that it's not just the normal cycle that's happening? Am I making sense at all? You can say no.
I hate this question. I don't like this whole thing. It was confusing.
Okay, so let me try once more. If a weather pattern with a natural cause has a 7-day cycle, then the cause, so essentially if a weather pattern with a natural cause has a 7-day cycle, then the cause of that weather pattern also has a 7-day cycle. In our stimulus, we say that there are few 7-day cycles that occur naturally, because the few 7-day cycles that occur naturally are of too little significance to cause measure. So the few 7-day cycles that occur naturally could not have caused the measurable weather patterns.
Oh, okay.
That it could not have been something that happened naturally. So we can't deny that our human activity had effects on the weather because it's not something natural.
Okay.
Ish.
Yeah.
Do you want me to look up something else to see if there's something better?